don't know if you knew this, but Washington actually has five seasons of weather. I'm pretty sure you have heard of all the usual culprits of spring, summer, fall, and winter. But the fifth season, which doesn't really fall between any of those seasons, is actually kind of overlapping things like summer and fall. And it's called fire season. So today we're going to chat a little bit about what it's like in the great state of Washington during fire season and what you can do to prepare yourself for it so you don't get caught kind of like I did with nothing prepared and an evac notice from the local emergency authorities. Hi, my name is Cassandra Marks, also known as Realtor Cas, and I'm your guide to absolutely everything Southwest Washington, Clark County, Vancouver, and even Portland. If you are thinking about making a move to my neck of the woods here in Southwest Washington, please either send me an email, a text, or a DM on the socials at Realtor Cas. You can find me everywhere. And we can set up a call to talk over all of your P&W and home ownership questions for the Pacific Northwest. And hopefully after this video, you won't have too many questions about fire season. So let's get right back into it. Typically July through October, we are seeing increases in that hot, dry weather. And with the lower humidity days happening more and more here in Southwest Washington, like this year, or maybe the atmosphere has been generating some super crazy storms lately, especially like lightning storms. These large swings in weather will usually prompt the National Weather Service here locally or local authorities to issue fire weather watches for the affected areas. So it could be the Cascades, it could be Southwest Washington, it could be around the area. And it's not uncommon to see these advisories come across the news or like Weather Channel apps on our phones and stuff like pretty regularly once the summer hits. We often also see burn bans statewide starting in July as well. And this means things like yard debris fires are prohibited. All sorts of recreational fires. You pretty much can't have anything bigger than 3 feet in diameter. And sometimes you can't even have those. You can't use grills. You got to be careful about pellet smokers and charcoal grills. They're usually still allowed, but sometimes even when you go camping, you're not allowed to have any sort of fire. So the only thing you're permitted to have is a propane fire. So it kind of makes camping suck. But, you know, my husband and I, we did pick up one of those little portable ones. It's about like this big around. It's a portable campfire. You hook it up to a 5-gallon container and you just go for it. So it makes it nice, but it still kind of sucks to try to cook s'mores on it. So when it comes to the recent weather, we just had a storm a couple weeks ago where they had, for like 2 or 3 days, they were like, yeah, this big storm is coming. And, you know, you got to watch out. There's warnings for lightning. And after the storm happened, there was a lot of power outages. There was a bunch of fires that got started. They said that 3,300 lightning strikes happened just around the Puget Sound, like Seattle area. That didn't even count down into Southwest Washington, kind of down the I-5 corridor. So it was a little frightening because we are very dry right now. It is August and it is nice and dry. You can probably see behind me. This is actually the greenest my grass has been in a summer before. Usually it is completely brown. And that's because I live on a farm and I don't want to water my grass. But if you go back, let me talk a little bit about what happened in 2020. So 2020, there was a huge, like actually 3 huge fires that were down around the Detroit Lake area of Oregon, which is just east of Salem. And they all kind of started at similar times and they were all in different areas, but then we were getting some wind from the south and it pushed all the fires together and they formed this huge fire, right? And all the smoke, all the wind was coming northbound and it was just burning. And then all the smoke kind of just settled over the area here. And there was about a 2-week period where you would look outside and you'd think it's cloudy out, but it's like the sky is just like this orange color and orangish red color. It's smoke, not clouds. And so it was super freaky and weird to go outside. Like obviously the air quality index, you can see that on the weather app on your phone. And it was like 500 something, 800 something, like you shouldn't go outside. So what did we do? Obviously, I still had farm stuff to do. So I was going outside in my asbestos abatement mask, which is custom fitted to my face with ventilation. And I was going out and picking the garden. And then for our house, since our house was built in 1901, it's older, it's kind of drafty, and we were still doing the remodel. We ended up taking painter's tape and putting it around both of our front and our back doors so that the air wasn't coming in. We also put like towels along the bottom of the door. And we were entering and exiting our home through the sliding glass door because it had the best seal. And then also like inside of our home, we had 2 hospital grade HEPA filters. We've had those for a really long time just because of our construction. So we run those to get the stuff out of the air since we do construction while we live in our house. But they came in handy. They did clean out the smoke out of the air, which was nice. The other thing that you can do in this type of seasons, we didn't have a humidifier at the time, since a lot of people had bought them when it started. And so instead, we just put a couple pots of water on the stove and boiled them to create steam. And so that steam, that humidity that you put into the air, then makes kind of the smoke dissipate and drop. So that was kind of 2020. We didn't have any issues with the fire up here in 2020 in Southwest Washington, but we definitely were getting the smoke from the fires. We also see smoke from fires in California. And sometimes when the wind switches directions, we'll get smoke from up in like Seattle, British Columbia, and everything like that. That'll come down. It just kind of depends. We haven't seen a lot of smoke this year, which has been kind of nice. So now let's fast forward and talk about the wildfires of October in 2022. So what had happened is there was a fire, and it started in like August or September. They weren't sure. It was just east of my house up in the hills, maybe a couple miles. And they weren't sure how it started. They thought it might have been from a dirt bike that sparked some grass, or they thought it might have been from someone out shooting a gun at the time, but something sparked, right? And so we knew there was a fire back there. We'd seen a lot of it on announcements and on Facebook and in the news and stuff like that. And then it kind of went dormant. So then I got on a plane and I flew all the way to Texas for a conference for real estate. And when I landed, my husband texted me and said, "It's really smoky here today." And I was like, huh? It was like 80 something degrees, not humid. And we had a wind from the east that was just raging. So it turns out, after he told me that, less than an hour later, I was on Facebook and I got a notification that we had been put into level 1 evac for this wildfire. Because I was wondering if this fire had gotten under control and put out, and I hadn't seen anything in a while. Well, less than 30 minutes later, we went from a stage 1 to stage 2. So it's ready, set, and then stage 3 is go. So we were in the set phase, and I'm freaking out. I am in Texas. I'm down there. I am trying to drive from Dallas to San Antonio with some girlfriends. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, if my house is gonna burn, I wanna be there for it. So I was trying to get a flight back, but I had some wonderful friends. They came over to the house. They kind of got my mom and Andrew under control and like helped guide them through the packing process where we had to pick. And I remember them asking me, they're like, "What do you want?" And at this time, my husband and I we were getting officially married on the beach in November. And I was like, okay, I want my pillow and I want my wedding dress. And those were the only 2 things I could think of that I actually wanted out of my house. And so my friend Sarah grabbed those. My husband packed up our van and packed up a bunch of clothes. It was really funny to unpack the clothes when I got home to see what he packed for me. But it was scary. So wildfires can be a real thing. Like, I do live in the country. I don't live in town. So, it's a little bit of a different scenario because, as you can see, I've got trees behind me. We have a pretty defensible property because we are in the flats area, more in the area where they're growing crops. But if you go just up behind me just a tiny bit, you're into the Hawkinson Hills. And that is where we see a lot of trees and neighborhoods and like uphill. So like the houses are very much in the woods up there. So that's where the fire was. It was up in the hills, not too far to the east, and it was just kind of coming through everything. Super worried, but after that day, it was great because the next day the humidity went up, the temperature came down, and they didn't have to worry so much, and they got the fire under control pretty quickly because the wind died down too. But it's amazing how much wind, hot temps, and low humidity can make a fire spread unbelievably fast. So I don't say these things to scare you away from moving to Washington, but it is really a part of things you need to know when you choose to live here, especially if you're going to live more rurally. So where can you get information on, wildfires, flooding, natural disasters, those kind of things going on around you here? Well, there is an app called Pulse Point. I love it, where you can link up to the local emergency network. You can hear the scanners, you can see what's going on. They also have in-app notifications, and you can set it up to give you what you want. I have just mine set for vegetation, fires, natural disasters, and flooding. And so I get alerts on my phone when any of those happen and they're called into like 911 here locally, and it'll ping up on my phone. So I knew when there was a fire just down the street from my house, that was started because someone's tire came off their car and their rim was driving down the pavement, and it sparked the fire in the field. The second way to get information is to sign up for public alerts, and this provides regional news. It's also in Twitter. It's all real-time stuff. It's fairly similar to 911 and Pulse Point, but this actually will text your phone the most recent information, and it's good for all of like the Portland Metro, Southwest Washington area. So sometimes they don't put, hey, you're in evac level 2 or evac level 1 for a wildfire on Pulse Point. No, they're going to want to text your actual phone number and use your location services to find out where you are. So you have to sign up for that. And didn't know that until we had that fire in 2022, but you bet your bottom dollar I ended up signing up for it immediately. And like none of my neighbors knew, nobody knew what was going on. So for text and data and all that kind of stuff, you actually have to sign up for it. So I will drop the sign up link down below. I'll also drop the link for the Pulse Point app as well. The third place to get information is from nifc.gov, and that is the interagency information for fire. And basically you can go on there and look nationwide to find out where all these wildfires are. Obviously you're going to see everything, and it's most of North America. Like you can go up into Canada and Alaska and see where all the fires are. They've got, the names of the fires, what is the condition of the fire, how contained it is, what's going on. They give pretty good information on there, but like that's over time as they're giving announcements on what is going on and how containment is, but it's not immediately going to be on there when it sparks. So that's why you kind of need some of the local information as well. And how do we prepare for wildfire season? Well, first and foremost, sign up for the alerts on your phone with that local Clark County local. Also download that Pulse Point app. 2, I recommend highly that you annually do a video of the entire interior and exterior of your home and upload it to the cloud. And when I talk about a full video, I mean like open your cabinets, pull open your dresser drawers, video on the inside, because my husband has been previously a insurance adjuster, and he did go spend time in Paradise after it had burned in 2018. And when you are distraught and you don't know what's going on and you've lost everything, it's very difficult for you to be like, oh, I had this, and you have to recreate absolutely everything that you have to, get your home rebuilt, to get all your contents back. And so if you have that type of information, if you have that video kind of annually or even every other year, and you upload it to the cloud, because if it's on your laptop and your laptop burns, it's useless. You want to put it in the cloud so that if something were to happen, you would have a record of all that information. Otherwise, things like photos from Facebook and Instagram and sales records of your home, all those things can also be used by insurance adjusters to get the information back to build your house back to the way it needs to be. The third thing is, if you are out in more rural areas, please make sure that you have a defensible space around your home. So make sure the trees and the brush aren't up around it. Number 4, if you are headed out camping, hiking, or into the woods, please make sure you look up any and all fires that are in the area and know what the weather is going to be like while you're gone, and if there are any warnings out for dry conditions or lightning storms or anything like that, just so that you can be prepared. Number 5, a humidifier is a great investment here in the Pacific Northwest. And number 6, listen to your local emergency responders, be packed, and have a plan for your family if you are separated, because chances are maybe you might not be home or someone might be traveling and you'd be like, where are we meeting? You don't know if your phones are going to be working or anything like that. So have a family plan always. Again, I don't say these things to worry you, and they're not super common, but they are very much a part of living here in Southwest Washington. And just like you want to pack your hiking bag and be prepared. Well, when you're doing this when you're living in Southwest Washington, you must be prepared for you and your family for wildfire season, just like I wasn't, but I am now. So if you're curious what some other seasons look like here in the Pacific Northwest and Southwest Washington, please check out my video right here, The Truth About the Weather and What It's Really Like Here in Southwest Washington. You'll find it kind of interesting. Again, my name is Cassandra Marks, also known as Realtor Cas, and I'm a farmer with a wee little real estate problem. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. I greatly appreciate it. And until I see you again, bye.